Stand up! Stand the up!
You're looking at a man with no remorse.
Can I roll over? I ain't gonna hurt you.
No shame.
Sit down right there. My daughter, she ran over to the fire department.
And no regrets for the atrocity he just committed.
Can you get the wallet out of my back pocket?
Shut up, dude.
Just hours earlier, he massacred his 3 sons in a brazen attack so unbelievable and shocking that it would shake the quiet town community of Moneroe Township, Ohio for years to come. This is the disturbing case of Chad Doerman. The Doerman family were a pretty well-liked group in the suburbs of Moneroe Township, but there was one exception. While the 3 boys, their mother, and her daughter from a previous relationship were warmly welcomed by neighbors, Chad Doerman was not. For years, Chad's aggressive attitude and hostile temperament created rifts among his neighbors, who were forced to watch as he abused and berated his wife and children on a near daily basis. The main victims of his endless abuse were his own sons, 7-year-old Clayton, 4-year-old Hunter, and 3-year-old Chase. But it was nothing compared to what was to come. On June 15th, 2023, Doerman returned home from work, greeting his family with an invite to join him for a nap in the master bedroom. But when Hunter arrived and climbed onto the bed, Doerman pulled out a rifle and shot his own son in the head twice, killing him instantly in a brutal, unimaginable execution. His stepdaughter instinctively grabbed Clayton and fled the house, determined to protect them from Doerman. But Chad was not finished and gave chase, rifle in hand. All she could do was beg a stranger on the street to call for help.
Hey, and what did the female say to you?
And she says that her stepfather is killing everybody in her house. I did. I'm on the phone with them right now.
Did she say how or what was happening?
I asked her to get in the car with me, and she said she couldn't leave her family. But I think she ran to the fire department.
But the police could not get there in time. Doerman finally reached them, shooting Clayton in the head right in front of her and taking his corpse back to the house. His stepdaughter was allowed to live for reasons that Doerman never specified. After dumping Clayton's body on the lawn, Doerman prepared to finish the job and kill Chase. But his wife would not let him go. As they struggled with the gun, Doerman shot her thumb clean off, causing her to drop Chase and giving him the moment he needed to shoot his son with just one fatal shot. As his wife frantically tried to revive her children, Doerman sat down and watched the scene unfold with seemingly no remorse whatsoever. By the time the police arrived, it was just too late. Yet Doerman was not concerned about the guns pointed in his direction. In fact, he didn't seem to care that the cops had turned up.
Show us your hands now! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up now! Stand up! Stand the up!
I don't think I have to tell you how terrible an idea it is to disobey orders from a police officer, but Chad Doerman is not your typical killer. It takes a special kind of maniac to willingly murder their own children, let alone dump their bodies on the lawn and not even show a single sign of remorse. But the detectives know they can't allow him to sit there with a rifle beside him. They have to get him.
Get your hands up here. Tell them we're 21. It's in there.
Those guys can confirm that there's people at the first aid, and that's the shooter is not complying. They need to take care of the victims. They have to shoot him and shoot him.
Man, I ain't trying to hurt nobody. We're completely sober. Never did drugs
63, we're 21. Get the EMS over here.
Well, I did drugs when I was little, but I don't do drugs now. I'm sober. I'm not trying to hurt you.
The devastating cries of the mother's loss had no effect on Doerman at all, who seemed to be thoroughly disconnected from the reality of what he had just done. In a moment of callous irony, Doerman promises not to hurt the police, despite sitting just feet away from the dead bodies of his own children.
Can I roll over? I ain't gonna hurt you. I ain't gonna hurt nobody.
You got anything on you?
No, I ain't got nothing, man. Phone, that's it. I ain't mad, I ain't nothing. Just make sure that dog don't come out. I don't think he'll bite you. Just don't reach for him and try to grab him and pet him.
All right.
He won't bite you.
What's going on, man?
Nothing. Can I stand up? It's kind of uncomfortable.
I'm gonna get you here in a
I ain't
second.
running away. You can do whatever you want with me.
Here. You the only one else inside the house?
What?
You the only one else inside the house?
Yeah.
Sit down right here.
My daughter, she ran over to the fire department.
Sit down.
It's my stepdaughter.
Put him in the cage.
Police immediately took Doerman into custody, but the arresting officer could not keep the disgust from their voice and had no interest in showing him any respect.
Can you get the wallet out of my back pocket?
Shut up, dude. You had the right to remain silent. Use it.
In the car ride over, Doerman began confessing to police, telling them that he did all of the killings and that he belongs in jail for it, likely trying to convince the police that he isn't a killer as much as a man who briefly lost his mind. But instead of making himself look like a good guy who suffered temporary insanity, Doerman is about to make himself look even worse. Doerman arrives at the station and is immediately brought into an interview room where he demonstrates even more red flags. He openly admits that the triple homicide was not an impulse decision or a snap judgment, but a premeditated massacre, one he had been planning for almost an entire year. Although that footage by itself proves that he was sane and guilty of everything, his lawyer somehow managed to get it thrown out of the case, and now it's unavailable and cannot be used as proof against him in court. And Doerman's own criminal history suggests that there's precedent for it. In 2010, court records show that Doerman had attempted to strangle his own father, a crime that had clearly demonstrated his unabashed appetite for violence toward his family members. And he doesn't deny the crime ever happened, mentioning it to the officers without them having to bring it up. It's like he knows how evil he must seem, but is entirely without shame.
Have you ever been here before?
I think one time for fighting my dad.
Here, Doerman carefully chooses the word fighting, a word that implies his father was as actively involved as Chad was, and downplays any potential abuse allegations that could come with it. This very careful phrasing implies that Doerman wants to control his own narrative and avoid being framed as a killer, but more as a man pushed to the edge, or perhaps even insanity, as so many killers like to do in a vain attempt at a get-out-of-jail-free card. Doerman's behavior during his jail stay shows multiple signs of someone who wants to be seen as insane, clearly laying the groundwork for the upcoming trial. After an extended silence, Doerman begins banging his head against the wall, hoping to raise some red flags in the officer's head, a clear and obvious performance to any seasoned cop.
Don't be doing that, man. Don't be beating your head on the wall, okay?
But when he's being walked through his arraignment, Doerman takes a new tactic to make himself seem emotionally unstable, expressing his tears and regrets over the executions he committed. This sudden outburst standing in stark contrast to his earlier nonchalance.
We're gonna have the public defender. I know. Chad, look at me. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. I know. Just take a deep breath for me, okay? I'm gonna have your public defender come back and talk to you, okay? And then we're gonna go out and we're gonna do your hearing. Can you hear me?
Of course, law enforcement is not moved by the tears of a murderer. Doerman didn't have to kill his family. This was a conscious choice on his part. He even said so, given that he's just committed one of the most devastating massacres to hit the quiet community of Moneroe Township. This is not going to make him come across as innocent, especially not when he's admitted to having committed the acts. But the officers take notice of something even more illuminating in Doerman's performance. He stops crying just as soon as he realizes that none of the officers are going to comfort or console him. His ploys aren't working, and no one is on his side. Finally, it clicks in his head that all of this is over, and he has to pay the price.
Can you hear me? Do you need a second? Take a deep breath. Okay. So your public defender will come back and talk to you. You understand that? Okay. And then we'll go out for your hearing. Okay. There is news media out there, okay? When you walk out, you'll see a piece of black tape on the floor. All I need from you is to stand on that piece of black tape, face the judge only, and just listen, okay?
This time, Your Honor, we would submit to the court that a bond of $75,000 reported.
In an act of just incomprehensible cruelty, the father stands before you lined up his 3 young boys, and he executed them in his own home with a rifle. They were ages 3, 4, and 7.
So right there, Chad Doerman. All right, there's charges came out today for you. All right, I'm gonna read through these. If you got any questions, give them to me at the end. All right. All right. Looks like count 1, aggravated murder. This is on or about June 15, 2023. The county of Claremont did knowingly, purposely, with prior calculation, design, cause of death in violation of Ohio Rise Code 290301, aggravated murder, unclassified felony. Victim under the age of 13.
Doerman was quickly charged with 21 counts, including 9 counts of aggravated murder, a charge that could ultimately lead him to a life sentence, or in the worst case scenario, the death penalty. But when he finally got the chance, Doerman pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, all but confirming that that was what he was angling for all along. Like many sociopathic killers, Chad is as predictable as he is disgusting. Unfortunately for him, police got him on camera confessing to the methodical planning of the murders of his children a whole year in advance, making it all but impossible to argue that he didn't know that what he was doing was wrong. It's the kind of information that would surely sway a jury to believe that he is aware of the consequences of his actions, so he and his lawyer concoct a new strategy. Realizing that they can't deny the content of the video, Doerman and his lawyer reframe the entirety of the confession not as a willing admission of guilt, but as a coerced line. They claim that the police intimidated and pressured Doerman into saying he had planned the murders, when in actuality, he simply snapped in a moment of temporary insanity. Now, in most circumstances, the argument would be rejected outright, and the confession would hold. But unfortunately, the officers had made a fatal error, one that could potentially sink any hopes of getting justice for those 3 boys.
I told him he had the right to remain silent, to f***ing use it.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was that last comment? You said you...
I told him he had the right to remain silent, to f***ing use it.
Okay. And did he respond to you, sir?
He did.
And what did he say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what did you take back, yes, sir?
That he understood I didn't want him to talk.
Because the officers had failed to inform Doerman of all of his Miranda rights before the interrogation, the judge deemed the confessions inadmissible evidence and threw them out, completely upending the case. That's also why we're legally not able to show you the footage of the confession. But legal loopholes aside, we all know what's going on here. The lack of evidence and witnesses meant that the sentencing and trial had to be delayed, but the prosecution has continually made it clear that they will not stop pushing for the death sentence to secure justice for the tragic murders of Hunter, Chase, and Clayton Doerman.
I want to start out by expressing the deepest sympathy I have for his family, for this unspeakable tragedy. We do have, I can't go into a whole lot of facts, all right, because this is a death penalty case, and my goal is to have this man executed for slaughtering these 3 little boys. It is, let me try to figure out a way to put this. It is an incomprehensible act of horror that he perpetrated on his family. So again, that is my most important focus right now, is to ensure that they are protected and they are safe. And my hope and wish and prayer is that someday they will be able to find peace.
As of June 2024, Chad Doerman continues to wait for his trial, but the murders of the Doerman boys continue to haunt Moneroe Township, with multiple new initiatives put in place to help locals address their collective trauma and raise funds to help the Doerman family cope with their losses. Nobody can deny that Chad Doerman's actions have left a cruel stain on a once peaceful suburb. Even if justice is secured, it will take a long, long time to recover fully.